Everybody, we're here with members of the Bergamot Quartet who will be performing at Raritan River Music Festival this Friday, May 6th at 7:30 p.m. at Stanton Reformed Church in beautiful downtown rural Stanton, New Jersey. We're going to be hearing a lot of exciting newer music and some older masterpieces on the concert on Friday. And we'd like to ask the quartet a little bit about the music, if there's any particularly interesting stories they have of working with the composers whose music they're going to be playing. Sarah, do you have anything you wanted to mention about that?
Sure, yeah. We're really excited to be there this Friday, and um, something that is particularly exciting to us about this program is we do get to work with a lot of the composers. Um, a lot of them live in the area. We've met them all for the most part, and so it's been great to work with them. I wanted to mention a piece by Charles Peck, Arcade, because it's actually a piece that we commissioned from him about 2 years ago, and it's been really great to get to work with him throughout that process. The piece has evolved a lot over the course of 2 years since that commission, and it's been great to see it change and to get to work with Charlie and try things out and experiment with different ideas and sounds and see all of his revisions.
Yeah. Where
And
was the premiere of that piece?
I believe the premiere of that was a virtual concert at Towson University. The commission was made possible by Towson. It was a partnership with them and Towson in Maryland. And so we were able to premiere that kind of through a virtual concert in spring 2021. I'm trying to remember where the in-person premiere was, but it's escaping my memory.
Have you played it in New Jersey before?
We have not played it in New Jersey before, so
Oh,
it is
great.
exciting.
Jersey premiere. Yeah, you'll have to tell us any of the other ones. We'll make sure we get that in the program as well. Ledah, the piece that you wrote, was this written specifically for your group?
I didn't actually write this piece for Bergamot. It was one of the first pieces I wrote, I think in 2014. And I didn't have my very own string quartet at that point in life, but I loved playing in string quartets. And I wrote it when I was spending some weeks in Vermont at a summer festival. But Bergamot has played it a lot since then. It's been kind of a staple of our repertoire. One of the first things we learned together when the four of us got together. So it's definitely grown with Bergamot, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Irene, what are some of the pieces that are on the program that you found particularly captivating to learn to work on?
Well, all of these pieces we've lived for a while, so I have like a personal attachment to all of them.Ledah's piece actually was the first piece that I played by a woman composer when I was in school, so that was um, really eye-opening for me that it took all these years in conservatory and then I get to grad school and then that's the
Yeah.
first time that I played a piece by a woman. And also I didn't really, I guess it was my introduction to new music, really. I was like, oh, friends can write music and we can play it. So yeah, so that's an interesting story about Leda's piece. Paul's piece, Ode on a Broken Loom, we heard it for the first time at Banff in Canada, premiered by a early music quartet on gut string instruments.
Wow.
So, and we've lived with it for a while. We recorded it, so I really, really love it, and it goes with every single piece that we're playing.
Huh. Did he want it to be performed originally on gut strings?
Yeah, so he wrote it for the Eibler Quartet specifically, um, and they play on period instruments.
This coming summer, Laura and I are going to be visiting the town of Sale in Abruzzo in Italy, which still has a manufacturing of gut strings. It's the Toro company, Toro. It's two brothers, and they make the strings in really by hand, the old-fashioned way. So if you'd like, we can come back with some gut strings for you. You can. I don't know if you could change the strings in between pieces. That would be really difficult.
The audience would have to be very patient.
I thought it was bad enough that guitarists have to tune a lot in between. And also, I wanted to ask about the music you're doing by Tania León. She has had a connection with us and at Manus, with the New York Guitar Seminar at Manus. She came by right before the pandemic to meet an old friend of hers, Leo Brower. They went to school together in Cuba, and Brower still lives in Cuba as well as in Spain. And he was giving a master class at Manus. Laura and I premiered a new piece of his there. And so she came by, and it was a great reunion for them. So tell a little bit about Tania León's music.
That piece has been really fascinating for us to get to know. One of our mentors recommended it to us, and there wasn't a recording of it out there, so we just had the score. We had no idea what it sounded like, and so we read it through. We were like, this is really hard, but we think this is going to be really cool. So we kind of just committed to it, and it took us a long time to really figure out the idiom of the piece, but after a year of being with it, I think we have developed a way of playing it together that feels really good. It's a really fun piece to play. It's inspired by a lot of different Latin traditional rhythms from different genres of music, which are kind of woven into the piece, really embedded within it. The title Esencia comes from Tania working with these different rhythmic elements that are kind of part of her personal language as a composer. It presented some really interesting challenges to learn. There's a lot of rhythm, unison rhythms, yet with very different, very sometimes strange notes. And we always joke about how hard it is to practice individually because the notes just don't make any sense by themselves, but put together, it's this really brilliant color palette. Really love.
Yeah, do you find that when you're working on music that's rhythmically complex, is it easier to figure out the rhythms of your own parts first and then try to put everything together? Or is it ever easier to hear it all in the beginning and then go backwards to deconstruct it?
For me, it really depends. I feel like like Tania León's piece, Esencia, when, like Ledah was saying, when we were practicing it individually, we were like, huh. And then when we had our first rehearsal, I was like, oh yes, this makes so much sense. So that helped me so much to get a sense of my harmonies and how they fit in my role in that.
Yeah, very interesting. Sarah, you were going to say something about that too?
Yeah, I think we kind of do a lot of both. There's definitely a level of being able to feel comfortable with your rhythms, even if maybe we don't quite understand them yet. But just like having kind of a baseline understanding going into rehearsal. But a lot of times it really doesn't make sense until we have been able to put it together. And that usually, and then after that, we know, okay, I need to go back and practice this again because now I actually understand how it works, right? So it's kind of this back and forth of individual and group work to bring things together.
Yeah. Do you find that working with rhythmically complex music when you're all together is easier or more difficult than when you're doing it to a click track remotely during pandemic times? Ledah, what do you think?
I personally think it's so much better to be able to do it together. because we can move together. And as a quartet, of course, we're so used to interpreting each other's body language. So for me, and I imagine I speak for all of us, it's a really different experience when we can have that visual element with each other. We do a lot of singing of our parts when we're rehearsing this music, and just trying different ways of conceptualizing rhythms together, which gives the piece life rather than just trying to fit it into a grid and only having the grid to go off of, because it's often about much more than the grid, of course.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right after the beginning of the pandemic in spring of 2020, the first concert we had for Raritan River Music Festival was the Argus Quartet. And we thought, well, okay, they'll just all get together in Brooklyn and maybe they'll come out here and they'll play live in a venue and we'll just stream it out to the world. And then it became clear one of them was in Brooklyn, one of them was in New York, one of them was in Wisconsin, one of them was in Michigan, and there was no way anybody was getting together to do anything. So they created an event for the festival from all these different places. And this is before we all were good with Zoom and Soundtrap and Adobe Premiere and all this stuff. And it was really quite a testament to the time. And they talked a lot about how difficult the whole time was for them, not just musically, but personally. But it was very interesting, and they got some great music to come out of it, that's for sure. But we're so excited to have a real quartet back, really live, in person. So we look forward to that. I just wanted to ask one other thing, and then I'll let you all go back to your rehearsals and things. Your association with Manus, is it officially the graduate quartet in residence? Is that what you're called? How did that get started, and how are you enjoying that time?
So this program started 2 years ago with the Jack Quartet, who's the faculty quartet in residence here. And this is the first time that this program has happened. So we're the first quartet here as the grad string quartet in residence. And we're finishing up this month. This is our last year. And it's been great. It's been really wonderful working with Jack and getting to meet more recently more of our colleagues. Of course, the first year was online, so it was a little harder to meet people. But this past semester, we've gotten to work with some of the composers here and meet more colleagues who are doing really cool things. So it's been great. It's bittersweet to be finished for sure.
Yeah. And what about the Princeton connection? Is that something that's going to keep happening into the future, Irene?
Yeah, so we're going back in the fall to workshop some pieces that are being written for us by Dan Truman, which
Oh,
we're pretty
great.
excited about. We also have a lot of Peabody connections actually at Princeton because a lot of our colleagues from school are in the new cohort. So we played there multiple times this past year, so it's been great. And Princeton's so pretty.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to ask Dan to write something else for you, include some guitar in it. His wife is a wonderful guitarist, Monica, and we actually had, I think, at the Raritan River Music Festival, probably before you were all born, Dan's guitar trio. That was a really, really good piece. So we'll look forward to hearing some more from you down there. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for taking the time today. We're very, very excited to be hearing your music and the performance on Friday. And we hope everybody stays well, and we'll see you then.
See you
Thank
soon.
you
We
so
can't
much.
wait. Thanks for having us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.